Hi, this is Joe Ziemba, and I host the podcast When Football Was Football here on the Sports History Network. I'm also the author of the recent book, Bears vs. Cardinals, the NFL's oldest rivalry. These two clubs first met in 1920 and will be renewing that rivalry again this year on December 24th in Chicago. In honor of that occasion, I'm very pleased to announce that the Sports History Network will be offering 2 free copies of my book to its listeners. To qualify for this great gridiron giveaway, just go to the link at sportshistorynetwork.com/Christmas 2023. That's sportshistorynetwork.com/Christmas 2023. Please enter by the closing date of December 15th so that we have enough time to contact you for a personal inscription of the book, and then ship the book to you for arrival prior to December 25th. And as always, thank you for listening to the Sports History Network, and good luck.
Welcome to the show, everybody. So glad you're here. What a whirlwind Friday it has been. I'm recording this thing on a Friday night after a fun day of streaming, eating, and a choir show. Madrigal show, to be exact, where it takes you back to Renaissance England for Christmas time. And they sing, and they just eat food, and the choir sings. It's a great time. So the day started off innocent enough. We, logged on to Twitch like we do every morning, it seems like lately, which is fun and exciting. Playing COD, of course, with Call of Duty for all you non-gamers out there, with my buddy Fallon. All right, we're heaming along just nice, and I fire up the stream, and yesterday my buddy Black Widow 51 says to me, "Hey, if you have Mountain Dew in your camera, there's a chance you could be featured on the Mountain Dew live page." So, me being the gaming man that I am, I'm like, all right, well, say less, son. So I proceed to down a code red and decide to put it on my camera, on my microphone, right in front of my camera, thinking, yeah, we ain't gonna get too far, right? About an hour into this thing, Mountain Dew Gaming shows up and asks, "Well, do you want to play?" I said, yes, of course I want to play. Let's play the game. And I also said, "Oh, bleep, this is for real." And they said, yes it is. So then I had, accepted their terms and conditions, which was fine. And then proceeded to play Call of Duty and wait my turn in line, which could have been anywhere from 15 to 90 minutes. And also you then, they would let you know, and then you get 15 minutes of fame on the Mountain Dew live stream. All right. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we're just going to get on the live stream and call it good. But in between of me waiting, Mountain Dew drops 40 subs. Okay. Subscriptions to my Twitch channel, by the way. That's what that is. Podcast is free. You can donate if you want to. That's fine. But majority of this podcast is free. Okay. The Twitch channel, however, we got affiliate. All right, so we can get some subs. Mountain Dew drops 40. Then I get into a game, and they're like, "You're on. Show us what you got." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" At this point, I am a glass case of emotions. That I am fraught, don't know what to do, and palms are sweating, armpits are gleaming with sweat as well, and I'm in Resurgence Quads, my home, my safe space, and they said every kill you get, we'll give you a sub, we'll gift a sub, right? I'm like, okay. Start racking up subs, 5, 6, 7. Then they said, you get to 10, we'll do something special for you. All right. I'm at 7. No sweat, right? No. There was sweat to be had. Because we tapped out at 9, boys and girls. And then they said, oh, your teammate's still alive, so if you get the dub, then we'll give you a big surprise for that then too. We ended up getting a second place, but they still came in and dropped another 160 plus subs after that. Mind you, I only had 67 followers starting the day. We ended the day with 23 extra followers, but we also ended the day with 203 gifted subs, or 205 subs for the day total. Mountain Dew Gaming came in like a wrecking ball. And my boys, I tell you what, they were up for it. The chat was lit. Man, and if you guys ever get a chance, I know I stream during the day someday, most days, and everybody's got a job to do. But my boys in the chat brought their A game. And it was grand. If you ever want to go see a real life reaction of this happening, go to my Twitch page, One Guy with a Mic. It's one of the videos on demand, and you can watch it. It's about the 2-hour mark of the stream is when, about an hour into the stream is when all hell breaks loose of this happening. You can also go over to my YouTube page and watch it as well, One Guy with a Mic. For everybody new to this channel, my kid's really trying to tell me, hey, you got to push this thing ahead. So I'm taking his advice today. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that follow button, ring that bell. Make sure you have auto downloads on, so every episode automatically downloads for you. No sweating that. Then that way you can listen to me anytime you want. As always, this podcast is brought to you by shankitgolf.com. We do have a nice little partnership with them, ambassadorship. One guy in the code is what's going to get you a discount for all your golf needs. And just think, it's Christmas time, and golfing season's right around the corner. So go ahead and get yourself some new golf apparel. You always need a nice hat. You always need a nice polo. Go check it out. I think they got bags too. Oh, and I love their golf gloves. Huh. But yeah, this has been a real range of emotions for me today. And I'm still quite numb, even as I'm recording this at almost 11 o'clock on a Friday night. I don't even know what this podcast is going to be about because, see, here's the deal. I was planning on streaming for 4 hours a day. That would have been from 10 to 2 Central Standard Time. And then work on my podcast and be prepared for the other 3 hours before I had to go to the kids' Madrigal event. And I ended up streaming almost 5 hours. And then it's just been crazy. And I mean, then it was just a calm yourself down type situation. Really couldn't get it going. Really just couldn't wrap my mind around what happened. So, big shout out to Mountain Dew Gaming for coming through the way you guys did. Really appreciate you. Unbelievably appreciate. They are absolutely goated. I also in that, so they give you 15 minutes. Let's hit this real. They give you 15 minutes to show them what you got, right? And then when it starts to dwindle down, and they put a poll in the chat to say, should we give this guy 5 more minutes? I got the extra 5 minutes as well. So I was 20 minutes into this bad boy with them. It was just fantastic, fun, everything else. But hey, we got sports to talk about, right? Enough about streaming. I mean, streaming's fun. I'm shot, guys. Absolutely shot today. So I'm not bringing as much energy as I normally do, but I've got a podcast. So here's what we're doing. What the hell is that? All right. So we got a podcast to do, right? There's been some trades in Major League. Let's start with Major League Baseball. Okay, let's talk about the trades that have been made. You got the Red Sox getting Tyler O'Neill from the Cardinals, right? You got David Fletcher, Max Stassi going from the Angels to the Braves. You got Juan Soto, the blockbuster trade that was finally done by Brian Cashman and the Padres. And Juan Soto with the number 22 jersey. God, I hope he wears 22. I know. The Rocket wore it, but gosh, I hope he wears 22. And then I hope he hits bombs over that right field fence in Yankee Stadium. So, yeah, those are the blockbuster trades so far. There's been some signings. Shohei Ohtani, this info's absolutely going crazy. No one knows where he's gonna sign at, and honestly, we all should respect his privacy that he asked for. That doesn't mean I'm gonna stop from saying what I want, and I want him to sign with the Chicago Cubs. Don't think it's gonna happen, but I would love for him to sign with the Chicago Cubs. And so there's that week's baseball news in a real summed up meeting. Not a whole lot happened at the winter meetings other than the Juan Soto trade. A few signing. Nobody even really signed. I guess there was some signings, but nothing major. You still got the high dollar free agents out there available. Bellinger, Ohtani. So you got those guys that are more of the want for the bats. Some of the pitchers are still available too. Like Snell is still available as well. Eric Feedy did sign with the White Sox. That was one pitcher I've noticed that signed. So let's see what we got. It's Football Friday, obviously. Well, in this case, it's going to come out on Saturday. So yesterday you had the New England Patriots beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 21-18. I don't even know what to even say about that. You had Bailey Zappi throw for 240 yards. Ezekiel Elliott had 68 yards rushing, and Juju Smith-Schuster had 90 yards receiving. And that's who all led the game. Those are the game leaders. Like, I don't know how Pittsburgh lets New England beat them, but I shouldn't say let them. I believe that New England came in there with a mission and to win the game, and they did, which almost all but secures the number one spot for Chicago to have the number one pick due to the trade with the Carolina Panthers last year. That netted the Panthers with Bryce Young. So, what do we got going on in the NFL? Well, this week we got some good matchups. We got the Cowboys and Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night or Sunday night football, and we got two Monday night games. We got Tennessee, Miami, and then we got Green Bay and New York as well. One's on ESPN, the other one's on ESPN Plus /ABC. Sunday matchups, you got Houston and New York, which Houston's trying to stay in place for the wild card spot. You got a divisional rival between Detroit and Chicago. You got Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta wins that game. They got a 2-game lead up in the South, which Arthur Smith, who would have thought that? You got KC and Buffalo as a 3 o'clock game today, or on Sunday. You got San Francisco, Seattle at a 3 o'clock game. So you got some playoff implications there as well. And you got Jacksonville and Cleveland, and Jacksonville might be without Trevor Lawrence, which then gives C.J. Beathard the start. So that's a quick little rundown of which games are going on that are important this week. Obviously, you got the Vikings, Raiders, which it's kind of a bad deal for me being a Raiders fan, but also support the Vikings because it was my grandpa's team. So why not just give our picks real quick, shall we? I mean, we're here. Might as well do it, right? And then we'll get into college football and how much fun that's going to be. All right. You got Tampa, Atlanta. We're taking Atlanta. It's at home. Detroit, Chicago at Soldier Field. We're taking Detroit. Indianapolis, Cincinnati. I'm going with Jake Browning over Gardner Minshew. We're going Cincy. Jacksonville, Cleveland. Well, if we don't have Trevor Lawrence, it's a Cleveland Browns victory. If we have Trevor Lawrence, I believe the Jaguars win. Carolina, New Orleans. Every time I go for Carolina, they disappoint me. So we're just going to leave the disappointment alone. Even though they did fire Frank Wright, and they were coming off their not a bye week. They played last week. Houston, New York. We're going Houston because that defense is awesome. And C.J. Stroud is playing like the number one draft pick he should have been. Los Angeles and Baltimore. In Baltimore, we're going Baltimore. Minnesota, Raiders. We're going Raiders. Obviously, we're a homer, so we're going Raiders. Seattle and San Francisco. We're taking the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco treat. Buffalo, Kansas City. I'm going Buffalo. There's a lot of people hopping on Kansas City, but Kansas City has lost the last 2 weeks. And they have lost to, I mean, I shouldn't say they lost the last 2 weeks, but this is what they've done the last. So they lost the first game against the Lions, right? Then they rattled off 6 straight wins, and ever since then they've gone 2-3. They lost to the Broncos. They beat the Dolphins in Germany, which I can't factor that game into a fact because it was Germany, and I understand both teams are over in Germany, but I still feel like that's not really a home field advantage type thing or anything. So it should have been a Chiefs home game, but I feel like you don't get a full Dolphins experience in Germany like you have been everywhere else. They lost to the Eagles, they beat the Raiders, and they beat and they lost to the Packers. So they got the Bills, and then they got the Patriots, Raiders, Bengals. Obviously, losing to the Bills isn't going to be the end of the world, but as they still make the playoffs and still finish with the second seed, but they have a chance to be the first seed. But I really still think that the Bills come into Arrowhead and the Bills win. Then you got Denver or Los Angeles. Russell Wilson's cooking, and he's going to cook at SoFi. So, going Russell Wilson. Philadelphia, Dallas. Now, at the start of the year, I said they were going to split this matchup, right? 1-1, 2-0. Wasn't going to happen. 1-1 was. Philly won the first matchup, so I'm going Dallas this matchup on Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a great game. Monday night, first matchup, Tennessee, Miami at the Hard Rock Stadium. Miami, of course, and Green Bay is beating the New York Giants because they got Tommy DeVito and nothing else. The New York Giants are not in a good state of football right now. That's for sure. As much as I dislike that, I think that they should be more of a team. They should be better than what they are. So that's what we got for NFL picks this week. And what do we got going on in the college football ranks? Well, we got the Army-Navy game on Saturday at 2 o'clock on CBS. Unfortunately, neither one can make a bowl game because the rule stipulates before the Army-Navy game, if they want to make a bowl, even though they each have a chance to get to 6 wins, they have to have it before the bowl selections. So, therefore, they are not going to a bowl. But I'm going to take Navy on that as well. Now, let's talk about some of the bowl matchups that we got going on here. The ones that stand out to me, first of all, before we get to the college football playoffs, right? Let's see. Before we get to that, stands out to me, you got Iowa, Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. Liberty, Oregon, and the Fiesta Bowl, because the Fiesta Bowl always has magic, especially ever since the Boise State Broncos beat the Oklahoma Sooners on the Statue of Liberty play, which is the best play in college football. LSU's going to smoke Wisconsin. That's all there is to it. I find that the Toledo-Wyoming matchup is interesting to me as well. Another good one's going to be the Peach Bowl, Penn State versus Ole Miss. That's going to be good. I think the Cotton Bowls are really going to be good between Mizzou and Ohio State. Let's see, Notre Dame, Oregon State's going to be a good matchup. I think here's my thoughts on this. Oklahoma, Arizona. I think Oklahoma doesn't show up for this game, and I think Arizona just wipes the floor with them. Because I think with Oklahoma already having, lost 2 losses on the year, didn't make a championship. It's been an underwhelming year for them. So definitely Arizona just comes out and just smokes them because Arizona's running it right now. I like the Hurricanes Rutgers matchup at the Pinstripe Bowl game. So it's kind of a home field advantage for the Rutgers. I feel like SMU should have got a better game than playing Boston College. I don't think up in Fenway. I think that's kind of. I think SMU should have gotten a way better game, but I understand Liberty ranked higher than them as the other 5 conferences type thing out of the Power 5, so they don't get as good of a matchup. But I feel like playing Boston College, basically in Boston, it could have been a better matchup. And I think SMU goes up there and just smokes them. I really do. And then they make their way to the ACC, and then they can play Boston College all they want and smoke them then too. The Texas Bowl, you got a old Big 12 matchup between Oklahoma State and Texas A&M. Oklahoma State's been playing on fire, but it's Mike Gundy. I don't really trust him. Texas A&M doesn't have a head coach, right? So, well, I mean, they hired one. He's coming back. So, another underwhelming bowl game, USC and Louisville. I think Louisville should have actually gotten something better than that, even though they lost to Florida State in the ACC championship. Then you also got Tulane and Va-Tech. Again, another 11-2 team. Probably should have got a better matchup than Va-Tech. Just saying. Now, here's going to be a high-scoring game, and it's just not because I'm a UNLV fan, but UNLV Kansas at the Guaranteed Rate Bowl is definitely going to be a high-scoring matchup. That game's going to have a combined score of like 78 points, I'm sure. Let's see. What else? San Jose State versus Coastal Carolina. That's going to be a fun game to watch. Northwestern, the surprise of the year out of the Big Ten, going against Utah, but at the Las Vegas Bowl. But Utah, who has just been too good, and I think Utah continues with that. And then I like the fact that James Madison got into a bowl game. Unfortunately, it's the Armed Forces Bowl in Fairson Air Force, and Air Force's flexbone offense is just going to run wild with that. So those are some of the highlights of the bowl season that I like to see. Boise State, UCLA, I think that'll be a fun matchup. And Jacksonville State and Louisiana Raging Cajuns could be a fun time too. So there was a few matchups I didn't hit on. One of them being Florida State, Georgia. Now, I don't think Georgia wins this game. I honestly don't. I think Georgia really hasn't played, as I said, anybody lately. And so it's not surprising that they lost to to me it wasn't surprising that they lost to Alabama last week, right? I wasn't shocked by that. I mean, I said that was going to happen because they hadn't played anybody. I mean, they beat Missouri, they beat Ole Miss, they beat Tennessee. Okay, so they beat 4 ranked teams because Kentucky's 20th, right? And I understand Florida State hasn't played anybody either. Like, I know Florida State fans, you're like, oh, we played somebody. Like, we played some teams. But realistically, your top wins are LSU at the start of the year at home and Louisville at the ACC championship game. Those are your top wins. Because Florida wasn't really that good. And I understand. Like, Florida State fans say, well, we should be in it because we had 11 teams become bowl eligible. Well, that's nice. But what did they do in conference play? Syracuse went 2-6. Boston College 3-5. Miami 3-5. Duke 4-4. North Carolina 4-4. Clemson 4-4. Virginia Tech 5-3. Georgia Tech 5-3. NC State 6-2. Like, that's the problem. Like, let's just take North Carolina State for crying out loud. They beat UConn, lost to Notre Dame. They beat VMI. They beat Virginia. They beat Marshall. Then they won their last 5 against Clemson, Miami, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, and North Carolina to get to 9-3. Like, that doesn't seem to me like an overly strong schedule. Georgia Tech, they beat South Carolina State. They beat Wake Forest, who, by the way, went 1-7 in the conference and 4-8 overall. Okay, So let's see. They beat Miami. They beat North Carolina. They beat Virginia. They lose to Clemson and they lost to Georgia, right? That's what Georgia Tech did. Syracuse, bowl eligible. They went 2-6 in league play, right? That's what I said. They beat Pitt and Wake Forest. You know who they beat for their other 4 games to get bowl eligible? Colgate, Western Michigan, Purdue, and Army were the 4 games that they beat, or the 4 teams they beat to become bowl eligible, which were all of their non-conference games. Boston College, 6-6 team. Who'd they beat? Holy Cross, 31-28, mind you. I mean, they did beat Army. They beat UConn. Like, we're not beating anybody good, so I can understand why we have issues here. Like, Miami did beat number 23 Texas A&M, okay? But they also beat Bethune and Temple. I didn't realize Temple even had a football program again, because I thought that was, like, not a thing for a while. All right? And, I mean, Temple went 1-7 and 3-9. So, again, I'm sorry, Florida State fans. Your argument of we should be ahead of Alabama still isn't keying up due to strength of schedule. All right. And but I still think that you're going to beat Georgia. Okay, then you can have your fake, or well, claim yourselves national championships after that, I guess, if you want to. Pull a UCF. Have fun with it. Why not? Everybody gets a ring. It's like a participation trophy at this point. So, in that matchup, I'm taking, because I just think Georgia's going to come out and be underwhelmed. Like they're not really going to come out and put up a good fight, is what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. So, then let's see what else we got for bowls, all right? Let's see, we got college football playoffs, all right? We got the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, Alabama, Michigan. I think Michigan forgot that they were on camera, because when they announced Alabama was number 4, the room went quiet. And I'm not saying like that's going to be a bad thing for Michigan, but Alabama is probably the hottest team right now going, right? They lost to Texas by 10 at home. And ever since then, their closest game was the last 2 games between Auburn and Georgia, and both those are rivalry games. That's also a thing right there, a rivalry game. And they didn't really blow anybody out this year either, because they didn't have to. I mean, like, their offense grew throughout the year, right? Their offense grew throughout the year, never settled. It continued to grow and grow and grow, and that's what led them to be able to win those clutch games at Auburn and at Georgia. And against Georgia. Not at Georgia, but against Georgia. So I really think Alabama beats Michigan. I don't think Michigan's the number 1 team in the country. I think it's a nice matchup. I definitely think Washington, I had Washington number 1 on my list of the number team, because Washington had the number 1 strength of schedule. I mean, they beat Oregon twice. They got a Heisman front runner, Michael Penix Jr. Like, I just think they should have been the number 1 team. I understand you can't make Alabama 3 to avoid that matchup, because I really think we really want to see a Washington-Alabama playoff championship. I think that championship game would be awesome. So I'm taking Alabama over Michigan. So that brings me up to the next one, right? We got the Caesars Superdome out of New Orleans for the All-State Sugar Bowl, Texas and Washington. Okay, right? So because I think the Cotton Bowl's the Cotton Bowl, or I guess Houston, Texas is hosting the championship game this year. So you got Texas and Washington. Washington's got to go all the way to New Orleans. Meanwhile, Texas doesn't. All right, so Texas beat Bama, number 3 Bama. They beat Kansas. They lost to Oklahoma, beat K-State, and they beat Oklahoma State. So, I mean, they beat some teams, but the argument could have been made that they shouldn't be in and Florida State should be. But you can't put Alabama in if you don't put Texas in because of the whole head-to-head thing, which at times I think is wrong because beating that team earlier second week of the season, I don't think Texas would be able to beat this Bama team that's playing right now. That's just my thoughts on it. I don't think Texas beats Washington because I stated Washington's the number one team to me. So that's going to leave a Washington-Alabama final. And being the homer I am, I'm taking Alabama to win the national title. I think Milroy has just stepped it up lately. That's for sure. Jalen Milroy has stepped it up. You got Jason McClellan as the running back. And you also got Roydell Williams back there too. So those two guys are basically doing it. They got 11 rushing touchdowns combined. You got Jermaine Burton at wideout. You got Isaiah Bond, who led the team in receptions with 44 and came up with a clutch touchdown there in the end zone. You got a little tight end play here with Nyblack and Dupree as well. So I just think that this Bama team comes out and not really runs rough. It's going to be a really good game against Washington if that's the case. It'll really be a good game. But I think Bama, right at this point, Nick Saban has his team firing at will, and they end up winning the game. So there's my little bit of breakdown for the college football. All right, so with getting closer to bowl season, we'll definitely talk about more about that. So, but I do want to talk about a fun little basketball thing going on right now. Her name's Caitlin Clark. If you haven't heard of her, she is She's the Iowa Hawkeyes girls point guard. She's out of Des Moines. She is a senior this year, I do believe. And she has a chance to make history with passing Kelsey Plum for the most points scored ever by a women basketball player. She is also has a shot to also take over Pistol Pete Maravich as well to be the all-time leading scorer in basketball history. She is currently at 3,013 total points and only needs another 514 points the rest of the way to pass Kelsey Plum. She averages 27 points per game as well. Cheryl Miller is next on the list, and then Shamika Holdsclaw, Maya Moore, Elena Deladonna, Ashley Jones. You got Rachel Bannum, Jerica Coley, Lori Ballman out of Drake, Patricia Hoskins, Brittany Griner, Jackie Stiles, Kelsey Mitchell, and Kelsey Plum, who just said it in 2017. So that's a bit of exciting news. Caitlin Clark has actually produced a lot here in Iowa has actually done a lot for women's basketball here in the state of Iowa, that's for sure. But let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend that she could be passing. Pistol Pete Maravich was born June 22nd, 1947. He was born in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, to Press and Helen Maravich, and he was raised in North and South Carolina, where he would go on to star at Louisiana State, where his father was the team's head coach. Maravich, during his playing career, he scored 3,667 points and averaged 44.2 points per game, obviously because there was no three-point line at that time. or shot clock, by the way. And he wasn't able to play a varsity as a freshman underneath the NCAA rules at that time. He'd only have a 10-year professional career in the ABA and NBA, spending most of his time with the New Orleans/Utah Jazz. He was a 5-time NBA All-Star, a 2-time All-NBA first team, a 2-time All-NBA second team. He was NBA All-Rookie first team in 71. He was an NBA scoring champion in 77. He's on the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. His number is retired by the Hawks, which is number 44. Number 7 is retired by the Utah Jazz, and number 7 is also retired by the New Orleans Pelicans. He won College Player of the Year in 1970. He was a 2-time U.S. BWA Player of the Year in 69 and 70. He was a 3-time consensus first-team All-American, a 3-time SEC Player of the Year, and a 3-time NCAA season scoring leader as well. He also was, like I said, is the Division I all-time leading scorer for men's and women's basketball, and his number 23 is retired. In the NBA, he averaged 24 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, and almost 5.5 assists per game. And he was inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame in 2006. He would start his career with the Atlanta Hawks, being drafted, I guess, not the ABA as well, but Atlanta Hawks, where he was drafted in the first round, 3rd pick overall, and he was not a natural fit. There he had a top-notch scorer, combo guard in Lou Hudson, and his flamboyant style stood in stark contrast to the conservative play of Hudson and Walt Bellamy at the time, who was the center. He would then, following the 73-74 season, he posted a 27.7 points per game, which is second behind Bob McAdoo. Earned his second All-Star appearance as well, but Atlanta only won 35 games. So in the summer of 74, New Orleans was awarded an expansion franchise as the Jazz, and they picked him up due to his celebrity in the state, of his accomplishments at LSU. To acquire Maravich, the Jazz traded 2 players and 4 draft picks to Atlanta. So, in his first season, Maravich managed to score 21.5 points and shot a career worst 41.9% from the floor, as the Jazz only won 23 games. Jazz management did its best to give Maravich a good supporting cast. They did go 38-44 in its second season, but did not qualify postseason play. After that, Maravich struggled with injuries that limited him to 62 games, and he still got a 25.9 points per game. And then in 76-77 was the most productive in the NBA. He led the league in scoring average with 31.1 points per game. He scored 40 or more points 13 times. He scored 50 or more points in 4 points, and he had a 68-point masterpiece against the Knicks, which was the most, was at that time the most points ever scored by a guard in a single game. Only 2 players at any position had ever scored more, obviously Chamberlain with his 100, and Elgin Baylor as well. He would go on to earn his 3rd All-Star Game appearance and was honored as NBA First Team for a 2nd consecutive season. He'd end up injuring both knees the following year, but he still managed to score 27 points per game and also added 6.7 assists a game as well. Then the Jazz moved to Salt Lake City as well, and that was his last year with the Jazz, was in 79 and 80. He only played in 17 games that year, but he only averaged 17 points per game. And then in 79 and 80, he ended his career with the Boston Celtics, where he would shoot 49% from the field. He shot 75% from three-point land, and he shot 90% from the free throw line as well. he would, unfortunately, the injuries forced him to retire early, and he really couldn't find stuff to do afterwards. But unfortunately, January 5th, 1988, Maravich collapsed and died of heart failure at age 40 while playing a pickup game in a gym at First Church of Nazarene in Pasadena, California. Unfortunately, upon autopsy, it was revealed that he had been born with a missing left coronary artery, a vessel that supplies blood to the muscle fibers of the heart, and his right coronary artery was grossly enlarged and had been compensating for the defect. Obviously, no one really knew about that before. So, Pistol Pete has also been documented in film as well, and also music. Smashing Pumpkin mentions Pistol Pete in their song The Tale of Dusty and Pistol Pete. And then ESPNU named Maravich the greatest college basketball player of all time as well. So, there's a little bit of history with Pistol Pete Maravich and what Caitlin Clark can go ahead and achieve. So, on that note, I appreciate everybody turning in. Again, it's been a crazy Friday. Sorry I didn't bring a whole lot of energy coming to this thing. But I appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in and tuning out, listening to me, hanging with me all day, every day. And make sure to drop that follow button, please. Make sure you go to my socials. One Guy with a Mic is where they're all at. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. And make sure you hit all the follows on that. You guys have a blessed weekend. Have a fun weekend. Stay safe out there. It is Christmas shopping time. Can get a little crazy. So, y'all have a great one.
Have you ever noticed that the lower jaw is not protected in sports? Did you know that 10,800 concussions will happen today? This has been an upward trend for the past 50 years. I'm Dr. Michael Hutchison, a practicing neuromuscular dentist. When my son wanted to participate in football and rugby, I was afraid he was going to get a concussion. That fear led me to finding the missing link to reducing concussions. The fact is, the only part of the skull that is not protected in sports is the lower jaw. If you want to drastically reduce concussions, there are 3 basic jaw positions that affect concussions, and 2 of them are not good. The correct one is called physiologic jaw position. It will dissipate the force away from the brain. Knowing that, I designed an appliance that put my son's jaw in the right place. And as a result, he was concussion-free from 5th grade all the way to senior year. This jaw position takes those 10,800 concussions today down to 28. It's the key to concussion protection. As a parent, this is what you need to know. It's extremely important that the device you are using is on the lower jaw. Thickness of the device is important. Most importantly, it must position and hold you in your own unique personal physiologic jaw position. So if your child goes out on the field with the correct jaw position, your son or daughter will not one of those 10,800 concussions today. Get yours today at powerplusmouthguard.com. Use the promo code POWERUP2023 for 10% off.